And Auston Matthews' return is imminent, but where's the best spot for him to play in the lineup? We'll discuss that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. What's going on, Dave? How are you feeling on a Tuesday?
Feeling pretty good. It's a nice day when you see number 34 back at practice again.
Yes. So Auston Matthews looks like he will be joining the Maple Leafs on their trip to Florida. So whether it's to play in tomorrow night's game against the Panthers or on the weekend against the Tampa Bay Lightning, he will be playing this week. So it is great to see that. Obviously, the Maple Leafs, they've gotten by without Auston Matthews, but he's still the captain. He's still the best player on the team. I think despite a 7-1 record, I think the Leafs are pretty stoked to be getting Auston back into the lineup.
Yeah, and he's speaking. Actually, he's speaking as we're recording right now. So I know the big question is if he is going to play. The big if is with him. He says we'll see. We'll kind of see how he responds tomorrow. And he wanted to get 1 or 2 practice to really get his legs and lungs back under him because he's been off for a little bit.
Yeah, true. Conditioning is always, something to keep in mind. And he did get 1 full practice. I know he was skating also over the weekend. The weird thing is, we don't know exactly what the injury was. So, was he unable to skate? Well, I guess, yeah, he wasn't really skating for about a week. Now that I remember, we talked about that. So he didn't skate for a week. Finally got back on the ice over the weekend. Got in his full practice today after an off day yesterday. So I'm guessing, tomorrow morning when he takes morning skate, he'll see how he feels. And things will be decided at that point. But based on how things shook out at practice today, and Max Domi is not going to be playing. He's not even traveling with the team to Florida for this 2-game road trip. Based on the lines of practice today, it does look like Auston Matthews, or the Leafs are expecting Matthews to be ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it couldn't be as you said with Domi out. It couldn't come at a better time with Matthews to come back because they need, again, with all these injuries piling up, and these are 2 very tough games that they're gonna need Auston Matthews for.
Dude, did you see Tampa absolutely wallop the Avalanche last night?
Man,
8-2 Colorado. Crazy.
Colorado is down bad right now.
Wow, they can't stay healthy and they can't get a save. It's tough. It is tough. I still think that that's a team that'll turn things around. But, the Tampa Bay Lightning were gangbusters in that game. That was a brutal outcome for the Colorado Avalanche. So safe to say that, Toronto will need to bring their A game. But, they played Tampa earlier this year, and they played excellent and won the game. Mm-hmm. So they just really copy-paste from that game, and you're getting Auston Matthews back. Again, he for sure should be back by the Tampa game, unless there's some sort of setback, which would suck. But it's the Florida game tomorrow that there is a little bit of caution with, but should be back regardless on the road trip, or else he wouldn't be coming. And he is, unlike Max Domi. It looks like, though, Dave, again, based on the lines we saw at practice today, he is going to be separated from Mitch Marner when he returns to action, and they're going to keep the Marner, Tavares, and Bobby McMann line intact. I like this move because I have loved what that line has been able to do over the course of the last couple of weeks. Do you like the call?
I love it. we talked about it a little bit last week that it would make the most sense to keep this Tavares, Marner, and McMann trio together because they just looked so dominant, right, on both ends of the ice. It's not like I know that sometimes they get quite a few offensive chances, but they got a right balance, right, with that line. And we've said it, like Matthews has performed without Marner, right? Like remember last year when Marner was out with the ankle sprain, it was Matthews,
They both
Bertuzzi, Domi.
perform without each other.
Well,
Let's also make sure we state that they perform well without each other.
Marner hasn't performed without. I'm talking more of we've just been spending 3 episodes talking about how good Marner's been. Like
Yeah,
we have
I know.
I'm speaking to like we've been talking about we don't necessarily need to have Matthews and Martin together because we have seen them apart perform really well, right? At different stages. Marner in this stretch, Matthews last year when it was him, Domi, and Bertuzzi. Like we've seen how it can work without them playing against each other, which is always why we said that it probably makes most sense that they don't play with each other, but coaches always have this feeling that they have to play them together.
Yeah. Yeah. And Craig Berube is gonna, for the first time, I guess, in his career, decide, all right, let's see what they look like apart. And I mean, coaches have gone, back and forth on that, right? Babcock rarely ever played those guys together early in their career, and then Keefe did for a long time, and then at times would kind of go away from it when it wasn't working or he needed to balance out the lineup. But yeah, it looks like with that line rolling with McMann, Tavares, and Marner, they are going to decide, all right, let's keep that thing together, keep it locked in, and let's see what else these lines can do. And just really quickly, I'm pulling up the stats right now of what that line has done, McMann, Tavares, and Marner, through 43 minutes of action this year since being put back together at 5-on-5. This is just pure 5-on-5 time. They're outscoring their opponent 4-1, but the expected goals per 60 is 5.54 and just 1.39 against. So they have been absolutely crushing their minutes, just crushing when they're out there on the ice. So I'm a big fan of keeping it together. And look, Matthews, he's going to be, was it Matthews, Nylander, and
Holmberg.
Well, I guess, Holmberg, because Matthew Knies is not going to be available. But we've seen Matthews and Nylander show great chemistry.
Yeah.
Last year, those two did really, really well together. So I don't have an issue with how things are going to shake out. This does add depth to the lineup, obviously, gives you two really, really solid scoring lines. So we'll see if he's ready to go. It sounds like it's likely to happen that he plays tomorrow in Florida. If not, for sure, should be back by the weekend against the Tampa Bay Lightning. But Matthews coming back, not a bad thing. That's for sure. Just real quick, I just want to explain just how well the team played in his absence, though. I don't think it could be understated. 7-1 record, which is the best record in terms of points percentage in the NHL over that time, an .875 points percentage, 25 goals, just 13 against. That's a 3.13 goals per game and 1.63 goals against per game. Again, an NHL best. 32% on the power play, 81% on the penalty kill. Yeah, pretty solid. And they currently they're still sitting at top of the table right now. Still sitting at top of the table. Let me see. Yep, still sitting at the top of the table in the Eastern or in the Atlantic Division, not the conference, but in the Atlantic Division with a 13-6-2 record, 28 points, and a .667 points percentage, which is also at the top of the Atlantic Division. So they not only weathered the storm, they absolutely cleared it with this 8-game absence of Auston Matthews. Hopefully he could jump back on a moving train and they can continue to play this way, or else, man, Leafs Nation's going to get loud if they come back and play poorly with Auston Matthews back in the lineup. I can only imagine the conversations that are going to be had this weekend at dinner tables if they, have a couple of stinkers in a row here with his return. But hopefully that doesn't happen. All right, we got a couple more updates from practice we'll get to on the other side. And an interesting segment we got coming up also in a little bit. Don't know if you guys saw, but the Ottawa Senators are doing a line reunion. The pizza line is getting reunited. And Dave and I thought it'd be fun to do a little exercise. What Leafs line should have a little reunion in Toronto? So we'll get to that also next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured or if your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return. PrizePicks keeps your lineup live. PrizePicks put its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When I hit on my picks, I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. You can sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this fantasy season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues with Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti as per usual. We have new podcasts coming out every weekday, Monday through Friday. You can find us free and available wherever you get your podcasts and also up on YouTube as well. The Locked On Leafs podcast, where we hit on everything going on in Leafland on a daily basis. And from practice today to finish off the update. So obviously, Auston Matthews, the update there, he was skating on the second line. We'll put that in quotations, but he's in the lineup practicing, getting a full practice in. Domi was not and is not expected to even travel with the team to Florida. He's currently on injured reserve. Matthew Knies did practice with the team, but in a non-contact jersey, so I don't expect him to play tomorrow either. And I'm unsure if he's going to travel. I don't know if you saw an update there. I didn't see anything about Knies and travel, but if he's in a red the day before game, probably not going to play. But
I haven't seen anything about Knies. The fact, I wonder if he has to be cleared to travel too. That's
possibly.
So I haven't. Yeah, I guess maybe they wasn't asked about. I haven't seen anything about Knies. So it'll be interesting to see if he's with the team in Florida. That would be a good indicator of whether he's going to get into the Tampa game or if they just give him the road trip off and he comes back afterwards.
Yeah, which I could totally see happening, and they'll bring. Alex Nylander, they'll bring Minton, they'll bring Grebenkin, and all these guys. Steves will come back, and all those players were playing, or I guess practicing in the lineup at practice today. So I'm sure that's what it'll end up looking like. Dakota Meyers was out there practicing today, which was kind of interesting. He's been on season opening injured reserve since the season started, or since preseason started, really. We haven't had a chance to see Dakota Meyers play just yet, and I do not expect him to play. So it was kind of interesting to see him out there in practice today. I don't know if it's just because they have had so many injuries. They just want to keep a warm body around just in case. But they have so many defensemen. I'm not really sure why they kind of suited him up to get out there and practice. But, Dakota Meyers looks like he's tracking to soon be ready to play. But, again, a guy I fully expect to be a Marlies player, not a Maple Leafs player.
Yeah, I was always a little confused with that signing. Just because the Leafs have added so many defensemen. Obviously, it's one of those cases where you feel like you can't have too many. But yeah, this is a case where they have such a logjam and little forward depth that it kind of makes sense to when he is ready to just send him to the Marlies, because I don't see where he could possibly fit unless you're sending another defenseman down. Like they loaned Myers down for that conditioning loan just because. And have the space for him on the roster. It's like, this is it's a rare thing to see the Leafs have too many defensemen and have to figure out what to do.
Yeah, it's Yes, for sure, because it's been a long time since they've had this type of depth. Now, Murphy's isn't really like a full-time NHLer. I think he was like an American League defenseman for the most part last year. So I don't think he was signed with any intentions of being a Maple Leaf guy. He was probably always going to be like a solid veteran for the Marlies. So once he's cleared and he is activated off injured reserve, I would imagine that he gets a very, very swift wave to go down to the minors, and he'll probably be with the Marlies for the whole year, unless like a stupid amount of injuries start to pile up on the blue line. Like he's probably at this point defenseman 10 for the Maple Leafs, so I don't expect to see much of him at all. Jake McCabe didn't practice today though. Maintenance day. We were told it was a maintenance day, so nothing to fret, nothing to worry about. McCabe and Tanev will still remain as a formidable shutdown duo for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He is good to go, and man, he's just having a solid season. You know, like I think that's what I've really enjoyed about Jake McCabe to this point. And those guys have over 200 minutes played so far this year. They've only given up 4 goals. 1.19 goals against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Isn't that incredible?
Sounds pretty good.
Like that's just actually is that a 5-on-5 or is that all situations? That might be an all situation stat.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they play a lot together on the penalty kill because they kind of mish and mash.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
Which means if you're also only, you're killing off penalties and you still have only allowed 1.19 goals against per 60. Pretty good. Pretty darn good, if you ask me.
Yeah. So I think you hope that Jake McCabe, whatever he's dealing with, is a minor thing because they need they've become so valuable, and especially with these next 2 games, we've seen how good these 2 teams with Florida and Tampa are. These are the 2 teams that are your biggest threat in the division. You're gonna need to be all hands on deck for these games.
Completely agree. I want to see where that ranks league wide. 3rd. So that's the 3rd best league wide among pairings that have played at least 200 minutes together this season. The McCabe Tanev pairing ranks 3rd for goals against per 60 minutes. I don't even think if I gave you 50 guesses, you would get the top defensive pairing this year. I really don't think you would.
Yeah.
Are you going to take a guess?
I'm not even gonna.
I just want to see if you're in a ballpark. Like, are you even in a ballpark? You're probably not. I'll just tell you.
Yeah,
it's Jamie Alexiak and Brandon Montour.
Yeah, I would not have suspected that.
Yeah, I know. 1.1 goals against per 60 minutes.
And like Seattle's been up and down this year. It's not like they've been like really good.
Yeah, apparently that duo aren't surrendering much. They've been on the ice for 12 goals for, just 5 against in 273 minutes. So pretty solid, actually, for that group. You know what also is interesting? Remember when Miramonov got dealt from Vegas to Calgary and then was switched to become a defenseman?
Yeah.
Him and Mackenzie Weegar have a pretty solid goals against per 60 as well. They rank 5th among all blue liners at 1.37 goals against per 60 in over 300 minutes. 307 minutes of ice time, which is the 11th most for any pairing in the NHL. Kind of wild to see that. Yeah, that was unexpected. But anyways, yeah, so that pairing, the Maple Leafs, right now, statistically, the 3rd best pairing in the NHL. Pretty sweet to see for a team that has very much lacked a shutdown pair for a very, very long time. Speaking of pairings, Dave, do we miss anything, by the way, from practice? I think we got to everything.
Yeah, I didn't see anything else from the reporters to suggest we're missing anything.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So that'll put a close on practice today. Tomorrow they have a morning skate in Florida, and tomorrow we'll tee up the game. But on the other side, let's take a look at some possible Leaf line reunion options that could be out there. The Sens are doing it. This might become a thing. It might become a thing. And if so, Who are some of the lines that the Leafs could get a little celebration and reunion from? We'll talk about that next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NHL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you, as always, each and every Monday through Friday. It's all Leafs all the time here in the Locked On Leafs podcast. So interesting. I was just kind of scrolling Twitter, Dave, and I saw that the Ottawa Senators had tweeted out something, a fun little video of a video of a text thread, we'll call it, an animated text thread with the Sens PR, basically, Alfredson, Spezza, and Danny Heatley, also known to many diehard Senators fans as the Pizza Line. And it looks like on December 5th, they're going to be honoring the Pizza Line. I don't know what that means, if there's going to be any type of like banner or plaque or something. I don't really know, or if they're just going to show up and celebrate. I don't know. But a line reunion is not something that is not really something that we've seen a whole lot of around the NHL, if I'm not mistaken. We've seen like team reunions where like a Stanley Cup team or something will come together and get honored. But a line reunion, that's not something that I've seen a whole lot of. But let's be honest, even as Leaf fans, we can admit it, that Pizza Line, they're pretty damn good. Pretty damn good and deserve to be honored.
Yeah, as someone who would watch that Pizza Line absolutely demolish the Leafs during that period they were together. Like
Toronto stunk at that time too, so
they did. This was like when Hasek was on the team, and like I was watching like 8-1, 8-2 drubbings by Ottawa.
It was like Raycroft and Toskala days.
Oh God, that's brutal. But yeah, no, I think it makes sense. I mean, all the Senators not playing well right now. I guess it's one like nostalgia trick to help plan it. I don't know why. Like it kind of seems a little random too that they're kind of doing this, right? Like,
well, yeah, announcing it like 10 days in advance.
Yeah, I know that there's like a piece. I think there's like a. I was also trying to remember why this was a thing, and I read like it's because like the Pizza Line, when like the Senators scored 5 goals, like fans would get free slice of pizza.
Yeah,
and so like that trio would help cash in a lot of those free. I mean, I don't know who the pizza chain was, but man, they must have lost a lot of money.
Well, I mean, I think they probably did all right. Those promotions usually work out pretty well, or they wouldn't do them. But yeah. There was a lot of food, a lot of pizza that was given out in the city of Ottawa. That's for sure. But a really good line. And it made me start to think, okay, well, if the Leafs were to do this, like, well, first and foremost, like, do you think this will become a thing? Like once Ottawa does it, like it's a copycat league. We always see it. And it's a way to honor the past. And it's a way to kind of bring out the nostalgia in fans, and like, it's a way to bring people out to the rink for a game. Like it's December 5th. I would imagine this is a midweek game. Let me just take a double.
December 10th, was it? What day did we say? December 5th?
It's the 5th. It's a Thursday.
Oh yeah, that's an easy way to get fans for a weeknight game.
Right. So it's a way to get it's a promotion to get fans out there for a weeknight. It's like the Blue Jays when they do the Looney Tuesdays. It's like, wow, we don't got a lot of people coming into Tuesday night games. Let's make hot dogs $1 and get people in. And they're like, okay, let's get a lot of the fan base's favorite players to come honor them on a Thursday. I'm sure a lot of people buy tickets to that game.
and they better offer a pizza promotion because then that would be pointless.
Has to be some sort of pizza promotion. But yeah, I think this could become a thing. Like, I think there's a lot of teams out there that don't necessarily like believe that there are players that deserve to be in like a Ring of Honor, let's say, or a Legends Row for Toronto, or don't deserve to have their number retired or anything like that. But it would be nice for the team to be able to uh, I don't know, like commemorate in some way, lines or certain players or trios that had a
Well, you
lot of
think,
success together.
like when I think of trios, like I think of like the French Connection, right, with the Sabres
Yeah.
back in the day. Like that was kind of where that whole thing had started. I even think of like when you think of like lines. I know this is a bit out there, but like back in the Sharks days, where like Thornton, Marlowe, and remember Jonathan Chichu, they had like that.
Well, yeah, but
Great,
Healy also was unbelievable on that line too.
yeah.
Like,
So like it did become a thing, and I think it's an interesting way to do it. I'm trying to think of like even like recent memory.
oh, I remember like the
Yeah,
Sedins and Burrows
yeah,
was a line
that'd be
like
good for
that
like the
was.
Canucks.
You had the you remember you had the triplets line
Mm-hmm.
in the HBK line in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Yeah, like there's been a lot of lines out there that you could, sit there and say like cult classics, I guess we could say, for a lot of teams. And there are some cult classics for Toronto over the years too. Like there definitely are. So let's go through some of the lines that maybe could get honored by the Maple Leafs. Do you have one or a couple that you think would be good to celebrate, that would bring people out to the rink and kind of hit that nostalgia nerve a bit?
Well, I think if you're okay, let's say if you were to go back to like let's say the 70s, you look at like Sittler, Landon McDonald, like and like Earl Thompson, I think is like the third guy who would usually be there on that line. So like if you want to get like the 70s nostalgia, there's that. The 90s, obviously everyone speaks back to the Gilmore Clark days. So I think like Gilmore Clark and Dave Anderchuk, I think would be probably the guy, one
Think
of the guys.
he had a twirl there with the group.
Yeah.
He did
So
for
like
sure.
because you have like, if you're doing that, you want to get Clark and Gilmore somewhat involved. The 2000s. Now this is coming to when we would watch the team. I had
Yeah.
one of Sundin, McGillney, and Tucker.
Yeah, I had Sunday McGillney and Roberts.
Yeah, like any of those three. I think
Yeah.
obviously there's a lot with Tucker. He's always doing something in Toronto. Now we got Matt Sundin doing a lot more things with his book tour. I had a fun one here. Back when the team was really bad.
Oh, I
Where
know exactly what you're talking about.
remember and you thought when you brought up cold classics, it just threw right into my brain. Grabowski, Clark MacArthur,
Cool,
and
man.
Nikolai Kulemin
Mhm.
or Kulemin,
Mhm.
depending on how you want to pronounce his name. But
Yes.
that line on a team that was not very good, very mediocre, was so fun to watch.
Yes. Very fun to watch. I had that line as well written down as like
Yeah.
one of those like cult classic. This is for, this is the deep cuts, right? One of the
Mhm.
deep cut ones. I mean, even in that same era, like Bozak, JVR and
JVR and
Kessel.
Kessel.
Like, yeah, it's similar. It's like they
Yeah.
suck. They were terrible, but like JVR scored a bunch of goals. Kessel scored a bunch of goals, but for whatever
Bozak
reason, the
was the
team couldn't hang.
miscast number one center, but somehow
Yeah,
made it work.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But I think like yeah, we go back to the Tuck Sunday McGillney or Robert Sunday McGillney. One of those two for sure, I think would be very worthy
Mhm.
of getting honored. They had a lot of success, and obviously the early 2000s, making it to an Eastern Conference Finals. It's the furthest that they've made it in forever. So that would be awesome. And then I thought of another one too. And this one it's a little different because we've been talking forward lines. What about Cabret and Cabret
Yeah.
as a reunion, a little deep pair reunion, Cabret and Cabret? We talk about how this team, hasn't really had like a bona fide top pair since McCabe and Cabret. Like we use that line
Yeah.
all the time. So why not let those guys get reunited and show them some love?
Yeah, no, there are some you can go back to. That one because Cabret would probably be between the two. Cabret might be the only one that I would potentially see him recognized in some way. But like, would you see Cabret get his jersey retired by Toronto? I don't think so.
No.
So like, that's a nice way to get them. I mean, it's funny because like the one way we did honor like the Cabret was a part of a ceremony was when Sundin got his number retired and Cabret stood in his place. So yeah, I mean, it's a nice way to just bring back some nice memories from fans who grew up watching those teams, remembering those playoff runs. Obviously, they didn't make it to the Cup final, but I mean, I always say like those teams were probably good enough to make it to the Cup final.
Oh yeah, like 93, 98, 2002. Yeah, like those teams, deep runs, and I mean, there's a lot of people that argue that Gary Fraser cost this team this team back in the day. So you know, there's those arguments that are out there too, those conspiracy theories. But yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun actually. I wouldn't be surprised if this line recognition, line reunions kind of caught on as a way for teams to celebrate, you know, the past, but not having to like immortalize these players or immortalize certain guys. But the fans will still love it. You know, like you damn well know that you're going to have a bunch of millennials come out for that Clark MacArthur, Grabo, and Kuhlman line just because people have it was just a line that people loved back in the day. I don't know why, but they did. It was just hilarious. And MacArthur, man, like Grabo and MacArthur played really well, like together. I mean, even Kuhlman had like a 20-goal season that year on that line. So yeah,
MacArthur, like he was a breakup player, had like a couple of 60-point seasons, went to Ottawa, had that concussion, and was just never the same.
No, he wasn't. Yeah, so that kind of ended that. But yeah, I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a cool thing if at some point this catches on and the Maple Leafs get into the mix. I think there's a few options that they would have to honor some previous lines, some trios, some deep pairings possibly. I think it's definitely something that that could become a thing by the league that the Senators are kind of starting out here. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. We'll be teeing up the Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.